Appeals, March 3, 2022, executive session. We have two items on the agenda. First is the approval of the minutes from our February 3 hearing. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Katie seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, bring it to a vote. You can say yes or raise your hand so I can see it. I see all hands, but Terry, there's Terry's raise. Okay, unanimous, that passes. Our second item is approval of secretary's fees. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. All right, is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say yes or raise your hands. All right, all hands are up, nods of the head. That motion passes. And we'll reconvene our working session after the public hearing. Let me just make an announcement now on the public hearing. There's several matters which have been continued. We have a continued docket and a regular docket. On the continued docket, number 7, which is 250 Pequot Avenue, is going to be continued again to the April hearing. Number 9 on the continued docket, which is 1088 Harbor Road, is going to be continued to the April hearing. And then our regular general docket, number 2, 86 French Street, is continued to April. Number 3, 1386 Hillside Road, is also continued to April. And number 8, which is 95 Old Post Road, is continued to April. None of those matters will go forward today for any business. So if you're interested in those matters, you'll have to come back on in April, but the rest of the matters will be going forward once we hit 3 o'clock, and I will open up the public hearing, and we will start with continued docket number 2, which is 100 Castle Avenue. And a friendly reminder to everyone, when you're signing on, unless it's your application or I have invited people to comment on that application and you're interested in it, please keep your microphone on mute. I will not rush. I'll do my best to make sure everyone has an opportunity to comment and to speak on their application or an application which they are interested in. Mr. Keegan shouldn't be laughing so much and so happy that Providence won the Big East regular season title. Because I think there's a team from our state that might knock them off in the Big East tournament, but we'll see. All right, I've seen that some people have been joining. I'm just going to announce we have several matters on our agenda which have been continued. So no business going forward on those. The continued docket matter of 250 Pequot Avenue and 1088 Harbor Road. Those two matters have been continued to April. On our general docket, regular docket, the following matters have been continued to April, and that's 86 French Street, 1386 Hillside Road, and 95 Old Post Road has been continued to April. Ms. Levitt, could you put your microphone on mute, please?
I have it on.
No, you don't,
No?
because I can hear you. Now it's on. Thank you. All right, I think we could get going. Are we ready to go, Matt?
Yes, we are.
Great. Call to order Town of Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing for March 3, 2022. I've already announced the matters that are not going forward. The rest on our agenda will be going forward today. So when I do call a matter, I would like the applicant or his or her agent to begin their presentation. Once I am done announcing what the call is, where I describe the property and describe what you're looking to do. We've seen the records that you've submitted and we've received emails. So we do have that. If you want to share something, you're welcome to do that during your presentation. After the applicant's presentation, I'm going to then invite anyone who's interested in that particular matter to speak. What I'll do is I will ask, is there anyone that wishes to discuss or speak to that particular matter? And I will want you to give me your name and your position, that means whether you are in favor or opposed that application. What I will then do is I'll take down your name and your position, and I will call first the people that are in favor of the application to speak, and then I will call the people that oppose the application to speak. Once I mention your name, once you give me your name, as I ask, please then put yourself back on mute. And when I call upon you, unmute yourself. I know that seems a little odd, but it just helps us hear. Sometimes there's feedback. Sometimes the record get broken up, and we're trying to create a record of this. And that's my second point. After I talk about the process, is that required by law for us to record this. So we need it to be clear. If there is anyone that opposes a matter, I will then allow the applicant or his or her agent to address those points in opposition. We do have some emails which we've received on certain things. I think at least a couple of them that we've received on matters that are going forward today, where people have put their position. It's up to the applicant. You can address those during your early presentation, but it's my suggestion that you wait to see if there's any other opposition and address them all at once, whether it's someone who's speaking on this through WebEx, or if it's something that's part of our record, which is in an email where someone has made a comment. I think it's just more efficient. It'll be more efficient for you, and it will certainly be more efficient for the record. And what's the most important thing, it will be the most efficient for the board to understand and follow the arguments and positions of the respective parties. As I said, it's required that this matter be taped under our law, so a record can be created if someone wants to look back and discuss the issues and the decision of this board at a later time. Therefore, we need to take our time about muting, unmuting ourselves, and only one person can speak at a time. Anyone who does speak, please at the beginning of speaking, give your name. For the first time that you speak, when you introduce yourself on a particular matter, whether you're the applicant, whether you're in favor, or whether you're against it, give us your name and your address so it's documented for our record. I welcome, and the board welcomes, the comments of anyone who's interested in any matter, whether you're in favor of it or against it. However, if you are too far off the point, I reserve my right as the chairman of Zoning Board of Appeals to restrict your comments at any time. Remember, this is for a variance. Most of the claims are for seeking a variance of our zoning regulations. And the issues for us are the issues which have been posted. We're not delving into other issues, the issues of what they're seeking and the variance that they're looking for. Applicants and interested people can remain in attendance after I complete the public hearing on all of the matters. At that time, we will be voting and discussing. Well, first discussing and then voting each matter that goes forward today. There are 5 members that sit for a Zoning Board of Appeals, and all 5 will vote, and you need a supermajority for your application to be granted. If it's a simple majority, 3 and 2 in favor of even though it's a majority, your application will be denied. You need at least 4 people on the board to vote in favor of your request for a variance for it to be granted. If you cannot stay afterwards on this, that's fine. No demerits if you can't stay for whatever reason, but you can call the zoning office tomorrow to find out what happened. But I do encourage the people, the public, the applicants to stay and listen, because we are discussing. Sometimes there's lengthy discussion on a particular matter. Sometimes there's not much. But when there is discussion, obviously, I think it's something, if you have an interest in that particular piece of property, I think it's very important for you to understand, so you have an idea as to what was discussed and why the board did what they did. If for an application for a waiver is granted, it's not going to be valid until it's recorded on the land records. Therefore, you need to send or bring a check in the amount of $60 made out to the town of Fairfield, and bring it or send it to the zoning office Wednesday or later following this meeting for proper recording of the notice. Any waiver involving construction, whether it's a new addition, a new dwelling, an addition, or an alteration, that will require an as-built prior to an issuance of certificate of zoning compliance and a certificate of occupancy. I will now call our agenda. I'm going to start with the continued docket. The first matter on our continued docket is number 7, which is 250 Pequot Avenue. That has been A request has been made to continue that matter to our April hearing, so that matter is going to be continued. Our second item on our continued docket is 100 Castle Avenue. That's going forward. So it is 100 Castle Avenue, map 79, parcel 201, petition of Yada Development LLC for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase the total lot coverage and total floor area from 30% and 50%, proposing 31.9% and 57.4%. Permission to legitimize construction error from 2005 premises C zone. And I believe, Mr. Jones, are you presenting that this time as well?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Charles Jones, 1910 Thomas Lane in Augusta, Georgia. I'm the architect for Yada Development. As I mentioned at our original hearing, I'm not the original architect. He passed away some years ago, but I am the architect handling the project now. We are asking for two variances. They are, as was mentioned, a variance of total lot coverage and total floor area. Previously, we had a survey that showed some different numbers, but we had the survey updated to the standards when the building was built, and I think you have a copy of that. And based on that survey, we are still in violation of those two areas. The height was not in violation back then. One of the variances we're requesting, total lot coverage, is the limit was 30%, and our surveyor calculated we are at 31.9%. So we're 1.9% over, and we're asking for a variance for that 1.9%. The second is the total floor area, which means when we add up all the floors, that put us at 57.4% over, which is 7.4% beyond what would have been permitted. Our reason has to do with the topography of the land. As you're aware, that section of Castle Avenue is on a hillside. It's basically a giant rock. And blasting was not an option, even when they built it, with all the houses so close. And so they made some adjustments when they were building. One of the problems is with the original design, the foundation had to be enlarged or made thicker because it's higher out of the ground. It's not in violation of height, but still that decision was made. And that is what puts us 1.9% over the 30% limit. And then if you add that to all three floors, plus the fact that there is an access walkway, it's like a balcony above the garages to access the units. And that balcony needed to be wider, just slightly, but wider so that they would have the legal clearance. And that is what drove us up to 7.4% over the 50% limit for that zone. So that pretty much is what we're asking for, a variance because of the severe topography of that land that kind of caused those construction changes to be made.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Jones? Yes, Jane.
Hi. The FAR, the 57.4% that you say you're 7.4% over, and that 7.4 is due to the open walkway. Is that correct?
It's only partly due to the open walkway. It's the other part is 3 times 1.9%. The whole building was a little bit bigger.
Because I'm looking at the definitions in the zoning regs, and the definition of the floor area requirements for the FAR, it says that basements, decks, and open porches are excluded. So I'm wondering if you could take that area out of your FAR calculation. And maybe incorrect, and Mr. Decker can correct me if that's so.
Well, I think there are some open porches on the rear which are not included, but in the front,
Yeah.
the walkway is actually not open. There's something above it.
Well, I guess, does that qualify as an open porch? I don't have the answer. I'm trying to help you out.
I'd have to defer to Mr. Decker about that.
Give me 1 second.
I'm looking at 31.2.15.
Yep. Just trying to get a aerial view to take a look at the building.
Yeah.
Which I'm not having much luck with. So
So what's the definition of an open porch? Does it,
hold
is it,
on, I'm
yeah.
sorry, I was at the wrong spot. So that catwalk looks to be enclosed.
So then was the area of the
That looks to be
decks on the
enclosed,
back?
so that counts toward their floor area.
What about the decks on the back?
The decks on the back do not count toward their floor area.
But they do count for coverage. So
Correct. Yep.
the question is whether there's some calculation that may or may not have also included that floor area.
No, I think what Mr. Jones explained was that the foundation walls are a little thicker than normal
Yeah.
and their box became bigger.
Okay. So I'm reading the application says, additionally, the second floor deck increased the building floor area to 7.4 over the limit.
Yeah, I think they misunderstood the definition. In my opinion, that they're referring to.
Because there's decks out the back
Yep.
and there's the walkway. So which,
Yeah. So Mr. Jones, you're gonna have to explain how you wrote that up.
Well, this number 7.4 did not include the decks, but it did include that front covered walkway.
right?
Right, but your application says additionally, the second floor deck increased the building floor area. That wouldn't be the case. It would be a second floor addition or a second floor enclosure. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Does that help you, Jane?
Well, if you're telling us that the that walkway does not qualify as an open porch.
Well, it looks, I'm trying to get a aerial. I haven't been out there in a while and I can't recall. I see it on the survey as being shown. Sorry.
Mr. Jones, do you have a photograph by any chance?
I think I did. Don't know if I have an electronic one.
I can hold one up to the camera.
Let me go through my, you can bear with me for a moment. I will check electronically. So I have a few photos. Yes, that is enclosed.
Yeah.
Don't know if I can show this photo, but it's enclosed. It's
Oh, okay, well,
part of the building.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, so that portion of the front of the survey that you see, Jane, that
Yeah,
dark shaded section in the front, that's all enclosed.
okay. So the way the application was written was not exactly accurate to what the things are.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, well, sorry. Tried.
Thanks, Jane. Brian, I think you had a question?
Mine was secondary, but it was more to the question of, is this strictly to legitimize the error in the coverages, et cetera, or is this in the interest of any renovation or future construction?
No, this is strictly to legitimize what's there. There's no plans to renovate or do anything else to the building.
Roger that.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Now I'd like to just open this up. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition? I know that Ms. Levitt is on the call and she sent an email in. I think Ms. Pitko also wishes to speak, and I think you're both opposed. I remember that from
Correct.
January. But let me see if there's anyone else that wishes to speak to this application, 100 Castle Avenue. All right. And I don't think there was anyone in favor, so I will go to.
Mr. If you don't mind, if I could go first, I have to go teach a class at 3:30 at Sacred Heart University.
Yeah,
If
that's fine.
Levitt doesn't mind.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Pitko. Just please state your name again and give us your address, please.
Trisha Pitko, 114 Castle Avenue. I'm obviously against. In both our deeds, I share the driveway with 92 to 100 Castle Avenue. Since the last meeting, this board instructed Yada Development to reach out to Mrs. Levitt and I to square away our issues. I have not been contacted at all, not by their property manager, not by a representative, not by Yada Development. In fact, this week, the police had to come to this condominium and could not access the driveway to get up to access the people. I have since, before the last meeting, when they came, I had sent a letter to the fire department asking for the fire truck and fire apparatus to do a safety drill to make sure that they could access these condos. If any board member wants to drive by, they have built the condo to almost every inch of the property. The people that live there can't even park in the driveway in their spaces adequately. They're parking on the street. And now, since your last meeting, there is going to be a 43-unit apartment building across the street in 8-30G, and they are putting in to ban all parking on the street and putting stop signs in front of our driveway. So there will be even further access to the residents that live in this condo complex.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pitko. Ms. Levitt, are you still there? I think we lost Ms. Levitt. Ms. Levitt, you're there. Unmute yourself and you can speak if you like. We do have your comments in email form. Ms. Levitt?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, give us your name again for the record and your address, please.
Yes. My name is Olga Stavros Levitt. I'm the property owner of 8486 Castle Avenue. That is a property that is bordering with 100 Castle Avenue. The issue that and the problem that we have been experiencing is runoff under heavy rain that leads to flooding of the basement of our property. So I was hoping that Mr. Jones had found some way reviewing that problem and maybe found a solution and a way to correct this runoff flooding into our property.
Okay. All right. Do you have a specific comment on their request about the size of the building?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Levitt.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to be
Just to
part
make
of this
sure,
meeting.
is there anyone else that has comments on 100 Castle Avenue? All right. Mr. Jones, I'm giving you the opportunity to respond to the comments of Ms. Pitko as well as Ms. Levitt.
Yes, Ms. Pitko's concern about the driveway access was not a part of our application. However, I did look at the grading on that driveway, and it is no worse than what was approved. Although in a separate issue, we can see what we can do with that with the fire department. As far as Ms. Pitko's, Ms. Levitt, who was concerned about runoff, we also looked at the grading to see if there was excessive runoff from this property onto hers, even though that too is not part of our application. But we are willing, I talked to the owners, and they are willing to put in some drainage measures, a swale that would prevent at least runoff from this property. Our civil engineers seem to feel that because everything slopes down from the rear to Castle Avenue, that runoff comes from a lot of places, not just this property. And the grading for this property doesn't shed all that water onto the property next door. But if the commission wishes to make that a condition of approval, we would not fight it. We would gladly accept making sure that no water runs off this property onto her property.
So let me ask this, Mr. Jones. Conditions are difficult for this board to put on a particular piece of property. And what you just said, I think, is an impossibility that you can say no water will ever run off that property to the neighboring property. Would you accept as a condition to that your client review both with the town and the engineers to come up with any measures that are necessary to try to divert water which may flow to the neighbor, as well as the condition to review the driveway with the fire department and police to make sure it's adequate for rescue, which is important to not only your clients' occupants and owners of that property, but the neighbor as well. Those are realistic potential conditions, and if you're authorized to say that your client would agree to those conditions, then I think that's something that might be reasonable. But I'm not going to impose it. You have to agree that your client would abide by that.
Yes, I do agree.
Okay.
I didn't mention the driveway. I did mention the drainage issue and where it might go, but I don't see any problem with getting fire and police to review that driveway and work out some solution to whatever problems they may find.
Assuming, even if there is, but just to review it, to double check that it's fine. I think that might be a good thing to do, a good neighborly thing to do, whether it's important to zoning or not, it's a good neighborly thing to do. So. All right, on the rebuttal, does the board have any questions for Mr. Jones on the rebuttal? Okay. I hope someone remembered those two conditions that I just said. I'll figure it out later. We're going to close the hearing on 100 Castle Avenue. They'll be taken up later. The next item is number 9 on the continued docket, 1088 Harbor Road. That has been continued to April. Our first item on the general docket, and that is, excuse me, number 1, 370 High Ridge Road, map 74, parcel 142, petition of Joshua R. and Caitlin M. Giordano for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setbacks from 40 feet, proposing 38.5 feet, permission to legitimize a construction error, premises R3 zone. I believe the Giordanos are presenting this. Is that correct?
No, Richard Kornitek.
Oh, I didn't see that. I just saw their names on it. Okay, go ahead, Richard.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Kornitek. I live at 151 Home Fair Drive in Fairfield. I am the builder of the residence at 370 High Ridge Road, and we are looking for a variance due to a construction error. When we poured the foundation, the offsets were, I guess, incorrect. With the main box of the house is 40 feet, should be 40 feet, which it is, but there's a section of the house that's 12 feet wide, which is the front stair tower to the building, and that encroaches on the setback line about 1.5 feet. So it's just the front street line that we're looking for.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kornitek. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kornitek? All right. Does anyone wish to speak to this application, 370 High Ridge Road? Either in favor or against, please give me your name and the position that you have with regard to this matter. All right. Hearing no comments one way or the other, I'm going to close the hearing on 370 High Ridge Road. Thank you, Mr. Kornitek. We'll be taking this up later at the end of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Our next item on our docket is number 286 French Street. That has been continued to April. Our next item is number 3, 1386 Hillside Road. That has been continued to April. Our next item for business is number 4, 32 Lookout Drive South, map 31, parcel 161, petition of Christopher and Cara Benelli for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback from 40 feet, currently 24 feet, proposing 24 feet, permission to remove and rebuild a screen porch on existing footprint, premises R3 zone. Becker Construction presenting this, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Mr. Becker.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Michael Becker of Becker Construction LLC, Fairfield. Office is 2060 Kings Highway, and I will be the contractor of record for this project. If you're so gracious to approve it today, it's fairly straightforward. As you can see on the survey, the house, I'll lead into what started this process. The people the Finellis purchased the home in June of 2021, and there was some extensive repairs needed on the chimney, which is on the Lookout Drive north side of the property. And that's one of the complications with this property, amongst others, is that it abuts 3 streets. So they decided to take, because of access to the chimney, they took the existing porch down, which I believe was in their original plans down the road somewhere, but didn't realize that it would become a non-conforming structure when they were ready to try to permit to replace it. Hence, when I got involved, the work on the chimney had been done and the porch was down already. I believe there's an error on the your docket. It says to take down the porch. The porch was long removed. That was removed in 2021. It's a screen porch. that was taken down. So now we're looking to try to rebuild it. It was not really the home was built in 1912, so the nature of the porch of the old one was just a basic shed roof, fairly simple structure. And as you can see from the plans, they're going to spend some money, and even the renderings don't really do justice to the detail and the style of it with the hip roof, nice columns. They want to make this blend in with the neighborhood and with the home. So as I said previously, that the house sits on 3 streets. So that also presents some complications with the setback. So we're looking for a setback to put it back onto the exact same footprint off of Lookout Drive North. And there is no increase from prior lot coverage or anything else. Just trying to rebuild it at this point.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Becker? All right, hearing no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, 32 Lookout Drive South, whether you are in favor or against it? Please give me your name and the position that you have with regard to the application. All right, hearing no comments, I'm going to close the hearing on 32 Lookout Drive South. We'll be taking that up for voting at the end of the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Thank you.
Our next item that we have is number 5. It's 228 Roland Road. Map 182, parcel 90, petition of Mark and Amy Carlson for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 18.4%, proposing 23.2%. Permission to construct a rear 2-story addition and a 1-story, 1-car detached garage. Premises A zone. Are the Carlsons presenting this?
Yes, we are. Good afternoon.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark and Amy Carlson at 228 Roland Road. We are the applicants for the variance. And as stated in the paperwork, our intention is to build a single-car garage and a modest addition to the back of the home, sort of keeping the side setbacks and lot roof lines and everything of the home the same, just kind of bumping it back a little bit. We submitted via email signatures from neighbors that we share property lines with. I believe the board has that. If not, I can hold it up to the screen if that helps.
No, we have that. Okay. Does the board have any questions for the Carlsons? All right. Hearing no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? 228 Roland Road, whether you are in favor or against it, please give me your name and the position that you have with regard to Roland Road, or the address, not the whole street. All right. Hearing no one that wants to come forward to speak, either in favor or against, we're going to close the hearing on 228 Roland Road. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Carlson. We'll be taking that up at the end of the public hearing. Next item we have is number 6, 34 Cambridge Street, map 130, parcel 139, petition of Jeffrey and Jennifer Klein for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce a street line and sum of 2 side line setbacks from 30 feet and 25 feet, currently 30.9 feet and 24.5 feet, proposing 25.9 feet and 16.8 feet. Permission to construct a front and side 1-story addition. Premises A zone. I think, Ms. Klein, are you going to present this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So we are looking to add 2 small additions to our Cape. The first is a side addition, roughly 185 square feet, to expand our first floor living space. The second is a entry addition of 47 square feet to the front of our home, in total 232 square feet addition to our existing 1,900 square feet home. So nothing significant and in keeping with the rest of the street. The hardship we face is a pre-existing non-conforming lot in a residential A district. Our property is non-conforming in 3 ways: lot size, lot frontage, and lot square. We back up to the marsh, and while we have a total lot size of 20,000 square feet, 13,000 of that is netted out. So we only have about 25% of our total property to work with. And due to the title line and the marsh, our home is located closer to the street than would be normally the case, as are most homes on the upper side of Cambridge Street. Hence the desire to add on these two small additions. With the full support of our neighbors, we ask that you consider this hardship and grant approval for these two additions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Klein. And does the board have any questions for Ms. Klein? Okay, seeing no one raising hand for questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, 34 Cambridge Street? Whether you're in favor or against it, please give me your name and the position that you have on it. No one coming forward. We're going to close the hearing now on 34 Cambridge Street. Thank you, Ms. Klein. The next item is number 7. It's 110 Millard Street, map 182, parcel 145, petition of Christopher Slawski for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of 2 property sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 17.9 feet, proposing 19.7 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the total floor area from 50%, currently 21.7%, proposing 56.1%, permission to construct a new 2.5-story FEMA compliant single-family dwelling premises, D zone. Is the owner presenting this?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Chris Slawski. I am the owner of 110 Millard Street. I'm joined by my fiance, Sarah Pasnick, and we appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. So as was stated, we are seeking permission to build a 2.5-story home, FEMA compliant, and seeking a 2-part variance. First is to reduce the setback for the sidelines slightly from 20 feet to 19.7 feet. And then petition number 2 is to increase the total floor area from 50% to 56.1%. And the reason why we make this petition is our goal is to build a room on the first floor that will accommodate elderly parents, specifically my fiance's parents. We plan to have them move in with us, and they are one of whom, her mother, deals with a couple mobility issues. Our goal is to build a room that is big enough to accommodate them and potential modifications within the room for future nursing care and to assist them as they obviously get older and live with us. And part of the reason why we seek the opportunity to build bigger than the 50% floor area is we prefer this plan to looking for the opportunity to build a separate apartment on the property. So we seek approval of these 2 petitions, and I think you'll see in our application, we did get signature support from our immediate neighbors on Lynn Street, as well as next to us on Millard Street, as well as our 2 neighbors directly across from us on Millard Street. So happy to answer any questions. Appreciate, again, the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Slawski. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Slawski? Jane, yes, go ahead.
Hi. So in the matter of hardship has to be tied to the property, not the needs of your family. And you have a big enough lot. It's bigger than is needed. I don't see any other potential hardship tied to the property. So maybe you can.
So I appreciate you asking. Part of the, of course, challenge is the need to build to FEMA regulation requires the garage to take up a significant part of the square footage that would be allocated to the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
So the case we make is that we still are hoping to build a little bit bigger than what is allowed, because that would allow us the space we're seeking for elderly parents. So I understand the point you make, but it's not based on the lot itself, but rather just trying to build that first floor. We, of course, with 3 children, will be on the second floor.
And then you have a significant area of rooms on the 3rd floor as well. So that's kind of adding all that extra floor area. So this is a brand new house.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
This is a brand new house.
So we are building up from the existing foundation. That is our proposed plan.
Okay. But the height, the third floor, the attic is, it doesn't exist yet. I mean, it's something that you
Correct.
have designed. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, no other questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or against this application? This is 110 Millard Street. Give me your name and the position that you have. I see a hand. Mr. Levy, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm the architect. I just wanted to add to Chris's point, the third
One
floor.
second.
The,
Whoa. Hold it. I gotta see if there's anyone else. Are you in favor or against?
favor.
Okay, hold on. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this application? Whether you're in favor or against, give me your name and the position that you have. All right, here we go. You're first anyway. Go ahead, Mr. Levy.
The third floor would be a work from home office because they work from home. So that's why the third floor space is designed that.
And you are the architect on it, so you're just providing the filling in the support. I should have seen that. I realized it right after I said, hold on, you're actually part of the application, so, but you obviously support it as well. Okay, so it does no harm that you spoke at that time. Along that line, let me just see a little out of order, but you could have spoken as part of the application, Mr. Levy. Let me just see if the board has any questions for you as the design professional on this job, to make sure. Jane?
Hi, can you speak to the hardship?
Yeah, we were designing the house and trying to go through and, you know, keep the rooms reasonable sizes, and just create that extra space on the first floor. And also obviously give him the space on the third floor to work from home. You know, we tried to squeeze it in as best we could.
But what does, I mean, the hardship has to deal with the property, so. What will
Well,
the
like you
hardship
said,
be?
the garage on the first floor takes up a significant chunk of that square footage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to make sure, is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor or against this matter, 110 Millard Street? All right, I'm going to close the hearing on 110 Millard Street. Thank you, Mr. Levy. Thank you, Mr. Slawski, for the presentation. Next item that we have is number 8, 95 Old Post Road. That has been continued to April. Number 9 is going to business. That's 221 Fairview Avenue. Map 143, parcel 36, petition of Denise Chambers for a variance of zoning regulation. Section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line setback on a corner lot and the rear setback from 30 feet and 30 feet, currently 20.1 feet and 36.5 feet. Proposing 23.9 feet and 5.1 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase total lot coverage and total floor area from 20% and 40%, currently 25.8% and 37.4%, proposing 33.5% and 50%. Permission to remove the existing garage, build a new 2-car garage, 2-story garage with second floor addition and covered front porch. Premises A zone. And Ms. Chambers, are you presenting this or is someone else? Oh,
I am Andy Rogers. My mother-in-law is Denise Chambers, but my wife and I are living in the home, or going to be.
okay. Go ahead, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, so I have a quick letter I submitted to the committee, so I'll be, try to summarize it briefly, but a couple of points that I wanted to reiterate to the committee. So later this year, we'll be moving back into the home in September. It's currently being rented out to tenants. We actually first moved into that home when we first came to Fairfield in 2014, but since kind of bounced around since then. and also since then have 3 daughters now, ages 7, 5, and 4. So that's obviously a big reason why we're requesting the variance in the property. So what the variance is essentially asking is allowing us to add a bedroom and a bathroom above the garage, in addition to building another bathroom on the 2nd story that will essentially connect the garage to the main house, but leaving the 1st floor open, which will be an open area for family dinners outside. The other thing I wanted to inform the committee that we have spoken and received support for our proposal from 13 of our immediate neighbors, which was also submitted as part of the signature variance form. So in terms of the hardship of the property, the property size itself is roughly 50% of sort of the average size in a Zone A property in Fairfield. We're at just over 5,100 square feet. So it makes it a little bit challenging for us, but it's a home that we absolutely want to move back into and stay in and raise our family in. And there's 4 kind of core reasons in which we want to do that, and how we're sort of making that acceptable and fitting for the neighborhood. The first is just the proposed layout will allow for a larger space for our family. So 3 kids is sort of, as you can imagine, kind of a lot, as well as a couple dogs. My wife and I also work from home, so certainly an additional need there. In terms of my wife and I both working 100% remote, one of the challenges that presents us with is that my wife also has an autoimmune disease, which makes it very challenging to be around, obviously, COVID, and it severely limits what she can and should be exposed to per doctor's notes. So because of that, she actually took a new job recently, which allows her to work 100% remote. So while it's certainly opportunistic for us both to be working from home, also provides us or creates that need for us to have a work from home solution for both of us too. In terms of the garage itself, our plan is to rebuild that. So not only making it more structurally sound and up to date, but certainly compliant, and moving or essentially expanding the setbacks on 2 sides of the garage. So looking at kind of pushing it forward and inwards a little bit. And that not only kind of allows some more room in between our 2 neighbors, but also helps to widen our neighbor's driveway as well. That, about a foot of her driveway is already on the property. So this will certainly give her more room and more access there. We also plan to remove the front portico entry and add a front porch. So just keeping in style with the entire home, or style of the neighborhood as well, and just making it just conducive to the environment. Our architect is on the call here, Bill Levy. So he worked with us in making sure the design was attractive in nature and harmonized with the neighborhood. And one thing I looked up that I found was quite important was that looking at all previous variances over the last 2 years, that there are about 10 of the 81 variance requests that face sort of the similar challenges in requested floor area. So we're certainly not alone in having the small lot size and trying to make it more applicable for our family. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time here. The rest of the notes are in the letter that you can, I believe you already have, so I don't want to reiterate it all in detail, but I do want to throw it to Bill, who has a few additional comments as well.
The other hardship, besides the lot size, is the lot square. The required is 75 and we have 50. And then it's also a corner lot, which always makes it difficult. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Levy. Any questions for Mr. Rogers or Mr. Levy? Currently, I have a question. It's either one can answer it. My understanding is it's currently detached, correct? Garage?
Yes.
And the plans are to connect at the upper level, correct? Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, and Mr. Rogers, there was an email that was sent in by Ms. Barnard, who's a neighbor, opposing it. I'm going to open up the floor, so I'll allow you to address that, whether she speaks or not, at that time. But I want to see if there's anyone else, okay?
Sure.
At this time, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, whether you are either in favor or against it? give me your name and your position. Ms. Barnard, I know that you're against it because you sent an email. Is there anyone else? Okay. Now I'll take you, Ms. Barnard. You appear to be the only person that wishes to comment, and we do have your document, which is part of our record, but obviously you are free to address us directly. So give your name and address for the board, and go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Barnard. My address is 237 Fairview Avenue in Fairfield. And I won't reiterate my letter. I think just the one thing I wanted to add is that currently the current garage is roughly 11 and a half feet from my house. So that's quite close. And while I do understand and appreciate the fact that the plan is to move the garage, you know, I believe it was like 15 inches farther away and a little bit east. That's still a very large structure that will then be very close to my house. There are no other two-story structures that close together in this neighborhood. And I feel that you have the rest of my thoughts in the email that I sent.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Barnard. Just to make sure, is there anyone else who wishes to comment to this application? All right. Hearing none, Mr. Rogers, you have an opportunity to address Ms. Barnard's comments.
Sure, I'm actually going to throw it to Bill here.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Levy.
Yeah, we tried to keep, you know, as we said, we pushed the garage forward and we pushed it off the property line slightly. The garage rear is forward. So one of the comments was that the sun would be distracted from the rear yard. Since we're pushing it forward, she's probably actually going to get more sunlight in the backyard. Granted, it will be a two structure, so there will be a little bit more shade.
It wasn't the yard that I referred to.
Ms. Barnard, it's his opportunity.
Sorry.
So yes, there might be a little bit more shade on the house, but we're trying to create a house that Andy and his wife can live in with their kids. And we, you know, tried to keep everything into consideration and not go crazy.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Levy. I'm going to now close the hearing on 221 Fairview Avenue. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. That will be taken up after we complete the public hearing. Now let me take number 10, 925 Post Road, map 141, parcel 51, petition of Leeds West Investment Connecticut Property Group for a variance of the zoning regulation section 29.12 to increase the overall size of an existing sign from 50 square feet, currently 139.64 square feet, proposing 152.49 square feet, permission to expand an existing pole sign, premises DCD zone. Who do we have on this? Ms. Bluini? Unmute yourself, sir. We can't hear you. I don't know why. You still show as being muted. Yep. Take your time.
If all else fails, hit your space bar.
You can hold the space bar down.
Eugene, you're coming up as unmuted. You must have your speaker or your volume level low. Yeah, you're not muted. Can you hear us?
If you have that number, try to call in.
Eugene, write this number down. 1-510-338-9438. And it may ask you for an access code. That is 126-944-3035. Call in.
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
while we're waiting for him to call in, can you just give me a quick number as to the accessory structure and setbacks in A zone?
64 and 4, or no less than 30, and then 10 from the side and the rear.
Hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can.
Okay, hi. Hi, good afternoon. I'm not a computer guy, sorry. Okay. My name is Eugene Luini. I live at 73 Autumn Lane in Stamford. And I'm the owner of A1 Floors Direct. I've been in the retail flooring business for more than 30 years. And I've owned A1 Floors Direct since 2009. I specialize in a wide array of carpeting and flooring products for the home or office. My business was located at 770 Connecticut Avenue in Norwalk for the past 10 years, but I recently had to vacate after the landlord opted not to renew my lease. After an exhaustive search, I have found a suitable place for my business at 925 Post Road, in a building owned by Leeds West Investment Group based in Greenwood Village, Colorado, which operates the Midas franchise at this location. Midas has an existing non-conforming pole sign for which it received a variance back in 1963. I have signed a 5-year lease for this location with an option to renew for another 5 years. My portion of the building is set back from the curved roadway such that I am worried that my customers won't be able to find me on this busy 4-lane roadway. I am asking for a variance to allow me to place a small sign of 10.7 square feet on the existing non-conforming pole sign so that people might find me. These last few years have been very difficult for me, and now I find myself in a brand new location trying to reestablish my business. I appreciate your consideration of this request.
All right, don't hang up.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Luini. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Luini? Go ahead, Jane.
Hi. Will you also have a sign on the face of the storefront?
Yes, but I'm set back way far in, and it's a curved roadway.
Right.
I missed it on my first time going out there. My HVAC guy mixed it. It's like a curve, and the buildings, the way they're located, you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming from the other direction, you have the Bob store,
Right.
and there's a lot of trees. And you can't see it until you're exactly there, and you got to make a quick left with your head, and no one's going to do that driving.
Okay.
So I need a little pole sign to survive, please.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Luini? All right. Now I'll open it up to see if there's anyone that wishes to speak to this application. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on this application, whether you are in favor or against, give me your name and your position that you have. All right, I'll just make a point for the record on that. Mr. Barnhart, Town of Fairfield Community of and Economic Development, sent a letter of support from Mr. Luini. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on this? Okay, hearing no other comments, we're going to close the hearing on 925 Post Road. Mr. Luini, you can hang on and listen because we'll be taking it up at the end of the public hearing, sir. Thank you.
Should I hang up?
You can hang up, yes.
Thank you.
Our final item is number 11, 215 Hanford Drive, map 147, parcel 11. Petition of Seth and Dana Zuskin for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 20%, proposing 25.79%. Permission to legitimize a construction error premises a zone. Mr. Raymond, I think you're presenting this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jason from Raymond Design Builders with offices located at 66 Robson Place in Fairfield. We got a variance back in the spring of last year when the lot coverage was at 27.29%. We proposed 25.36%. We got that was approved. However, there was an error in the architectural drawings that had been submitted to the surveyor as well as submitted to the board originally. The error was that the back wall measured 30 feet 10 inches. The architectural drawings show it measuring at 30 feet half an inch. Due to that error, when the construction was finished, it was found out that there was the increase was 0.5. Roughly 0.5% larger than the original variance was granted for. We are here asking for the remaining kind of 0.5%, and that's it.
Okay. Does any of the board have any questions for Mr. Raymond? Katie, go ahead.
So you're not really going from 20% to 25.79. You already had a variance to go to 25.74 or 25.
25.36.
36. Okay. Okay. That's it. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing no other questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? Whether you are in favor or against the application, please give me your name and your position. All right, hearing no one, we're going to close the hearing on 215 Hanford Drive, and we'll be taking that up shortly. Does the board need a break for any reason? Raise your hand if you need a break. All right, no hands up. Okay, we can go into working sessions. The public hearing is now completely closed. Go through the order again. First matter was 250 Pequot Avenue, continued docket. That's been continued. First matter for business is number 2 on continued, which is 100 Castle Avenue. I would entertain a motion to approve with 2 conditions which are offered by the applicant. The first is that they will work with their own engineers and through town engineering to see if there is a need to address water runoff to the neighboring property at 8486 Castle Avenue and take whatever measures are necessary and reasonable to prevent or reduce that water runoff. And number 2, that the owner will consult with the town fire and police to determine if there are any issues that need to be addressed regarding the access for safety for the properties both at 100 Castle Avenue and 114 Castle Avenue. With those two conditions, and I hope someone else wrote them down while I was talking. Thank you, Matt. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, discussion?
I think pending those conditions, it's a worthy application. Without, I would not be in favor. But with those conditions, I think it's a worthy application.
I mean, I wish the owner did reach out. I know Ms. Bitko made a comment, but her comments and the other neighbors' comments are clearly very important to them, but don't really speak to the issue of the variance that's requested. They're not an issue, but it is an issue that the owner should address, and I'm happy that they offered those conditions to bind themselves to do those things and undertake those for the benefit of not only this particular property, but the adjoining properties as well. But it was a difficult thing going back to 2005. We're trying to correct it. So I think it's with those conditions, it's reasonable.
Yeah, I was wondering what the remedy would be should it not pass. What are we asking them to take down?
Yeah, that's it's not the remedy, it's the result.
It's the result, right?
Yeah, that's the and this board has done that before. Not a lot, but I sat as a secretary, and a couple times we had people take structures down that were put up. So, all right, let's bring it to a vote. The order that we have, as I'm looking at my screen, Brian is first. Jane is number 2. Katie is 3. Terry, you are 4. I'm last, of course. So bring it to a vote. Brian?
Yep.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I say yes, that passes. Next item is number 9, and that's 1088 Harbor Road. That was continued to the next hearing. On the general docket, we have number 1, 370 High Ridge Road, presented by Mr. Kornichuk for the Giordano's to legitimize construction error. It looks like we have some legitimizing construction error matters on our agenda today. And I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
I think this one's fairly straightforward. It was what, the thickness of a foundation or something that caused a problem. I think it's a fair remedy. It's not a big issue.
I agree.
All right. Bring it to a vote. Brian?
Yep.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I say yes. That has been granted. Number 2, 86 French Street was continued. Number 3, 1386 Hillside Road was continued. Number 4, 32 Lookout Drive. Mr. Becker presented this for the Benellis. It's to remove, the call was to remove and rebuild the screen porch on existing footprint. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, discussion. You don't normally have 3 roads for a property, but so it's interesting part of it.
So
Beautiful little parcel.
if they had considered this a repair and taken down half the porch and fixed the other half, and then taken down the other half and finished it, would that have just been considered a repair and not need a permit?
Nope.
Yeah.
No?
They would have.
No, wouldn't be considered, or they wouldn't need a permit to do that?
No, it would need a variance and a permit.
Even if they're repairing something that exists?
Not when you remove.
No, I'm just saying they don't, if they just repair it strategically.
Depends on how you define strategically.
This would have been a long repair because they would have taken
It would have been, yeah.
Do
one
they,
stud out,
Panel
put
at
it
a
back
time.
in, wait a week and put another stud in, take it out.
do they need to get a demo permit now retroactively?
No.
No, not taking down a little edge. No different than taking out a deck.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's going back into the same spot. It's everyone thinks that that's the back and it has a street back.
Yeah.
All right, bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yeah.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
I say yes. That has been granted. And number 5, 228 Roland Road, Carlson's. They presented their own application. It's to 2-story addition, 1-story, one car detached garage. Need a variance on that for some lot coverage. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. All right, discussion.
I think it's a reasonable request. I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. I don't see any cause for objection.
I
Any
agree.
comments?
It's reasonable.
All right, bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yep.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
I say yes. Okay. Number 6, 34 Cambridge Street. Ms. Klein presented her application. She's the owner. And it's to construct a front and side 1-story addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion.
This is a clear case of the lot having
Yeah.
significant problems.
Yeah. First words I put, weird lot shape.
Yeah.
I know that's, but
It's not even it's the wetlands and the topography
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
well,
She
then it
gets to
goes,
use 20% of her property.
Yeah.
and then where she has to put the house, it narrows.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
So you got she's got the hat trick on hardship.
Yeah.
She hit the trifecta.
Yeah, and what she's proposing is modest. It's not ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yep.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
I say yes. Okay. Next item is 110 Millard Street. Ms. Klowski presented the application. Mr. Levy also added in because he was the design professional. It's to construct a 2.5-story FEMA compliant single-family dwelling. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, discussion.
I don't see a hardship. I mean, I know their family needs things, but it's a brand new house. And, just design it so you don't need a variance. You can still get all the spaces that you need.
Good. I mean, a basis for variance, if there was someone that was going to be opposing, is a reduction of a previous nonconformity. They reduced the previous nonconformity 17.1 feet and made it closer to what the setback is.
But it's a brand new house, so,
But it still gives them the basis for the application, and I don't personally find it an unreasonable build in the area. Proximity notwithstanding, I don't think it's outside the realm of an ask that we're conditioned to grant. And the neighborhood does have similar aesthetic.
Still think it's too big. It's 12% bigger than volume than is permitted.
Thought it was only 6.1.
No, it's 6%, but it's 12 out of what's permitted. It's 12% bigger. Arithmetic.
Sorry, you do that faster than I do, Jane.
They're asking for 6% over.
Right.
Right.
Saying it's 12%.
It's
Of what they permitted. Yeah. So, you know, I understand people need to work from home, but that's not a hardship.
What's the total square footage again? I don't have it in front of me now.
Can't read it on my big screen. It's all blurry. Hold on.
3,700.
Yeah. I don't think that's out of keeping with the neighborhood, quite frankly.
It's not.
I mean, there's a lot of big house. There's a lot of, I would imagine, larger new construction on that street right now.
Yeah.
Again, I understand it's not like it's a precedent, but it is somewhat in keeping with the way the neighborhood is being developed.
Well, you know, we incrementally get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having regulations and
All right, well, let's bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yes.
Jane,
no.
Katie,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
I say yes, that one has been granted. Number 8, 95 Old Post Road, that's been continued. Number 9, 221 Fairview Avenue. Chambers, Mr. Rogers, Andy Rogers presented the application. And I think we also had Mr. Levy commented on this as well, as the architect. And we had Ms. Barnard who opposed. They want to remove the existing garage, build a new two-story garage and second floor addition and a covered front porch. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, discussion.
I think this is a situation where you ask for more than you really need, and there's an opportunity to pare it down to get what you need. And what I mean is the garage doesn't have to have a space between it and the house. It could be pulled back to be closer to the house. And they have 3 children, but they're designing 5 bedrooms. So maybe that's a little bit beyond what the property can take.
They have 3 children, and isn't this also one where the family, the senior,
No.
would be living with them also?
And
That was the
besides,
previous one.
you know, we can't really worry about who lives there. It's just
I'm
that
just
it's a bigger-
trying
it's
to
a
make sure I
bigger-
have the full.
Yeah,
picture.
I just think it's too big a house for that property. It doesn't need to be that big. You can, I don't see the hardship. Is that great?
Any
To
other?
go that far over FAR.
Trying to look.
Going from
Just refresh my
37.4
memory what the FAR ask is. I'm trying to find it.
They want to go 50% and they're only permitted 40. So
Okay.
that's a big jump.
It's a 2,600 square foot house. Proposed.
Yep.
2,565. It's the square
Yeah,
footage.
I know that's not outside the realm of the neighborhood. I do consider the neighbor's objection with, you know, proximity to her home.
Yeah, but the garage is closer.
Yeah, they're actually
taller,
doing
taller.
better.
They could leave the garage there.
Yeah, they could leave it there.
All right, let's bring it to a vote. Brian,
Nope.
Jane,
No.
Katie, Terry?
Yes.
I say yes. That one has been denied. Number 10 is 925 Post Road. I'd be confused of the 95 Post Road and the 925 Post Road. So, Matt, if you could avoid stuff like that, at least you didn't put them right next to each other.
I'll do my best next time. I'll put one first and one last.
All right, 925 Post Road. Mr. Luini presented this. He wants to be moving into this, or he's moving into this space, requesting an additional sign in front. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion?
I think it's an absolutely reasonable ask based on the area that it's going into. I mean, I've driven by that a couple of thousand times. I didn't even know there was a space for a business like that on that side of the building. So I can understand why he needs it.
So they have a
Great.
variance from 1963. Variances never expire, correct?
Yeah, that's older than me.
Yeah. Oh, not me.
Not me.
Just
And
barely.
If that sign was taken down, if Midas moves, then the next tenant could put up as equally large a sign.
152.49 square foot sign.
Automatically, no
Well,
variances
that
will
would
lead to future.
require it being that would require it being a single tenant space also, which obviously is the purview of the owner. But right now, it's covering three. It would be covering three businesses, not one.
What?
There are three. If I looked at that rendering correctly, there are two businesses there. It would be Midas and his. But yes, I mean, either way, you're correct. If it was a single tenant occupier, they could put up 152 square foot sign.
No, they could put up 139.
Well, currently, yes.
Yeah, right. But if we grant this variance, then the next time around, I'm just trying to see what happens. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with, the application for 10 square feet, but I'm just wondering how, if Midas goes away, the variance still remains, and the Love Shack moves in, and now we have a giant blinking neon sign.
Well, that's
Something we don't know.
That's a
I was gonna
different.
say
That's my hypothetical example.
There are different rules and regulations that will apply to that business.
Okay.
And beyond this board's control.
Well beyond.
I think we also, I'm taking into consideration the fact that the town's community and economic development department is all behind this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to help, and most of you have known me long enough that on this board, maybe not Brian so much, but the rest a little bit longer. I don't like signs.
I know.
And I'm always reluctant, but this one, it's not it's a reasonable request. I wish the pre-existing variance, to Jane's point, was not so big, but that was in the 60s. They did a lot of crazy stuff in the 60s.
Yeah.
So I think it's reasonable. Hopefully it helps the business.
And the existing tenant, the Midas, they have no reason to want to share some of their square feet.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
That's their
right.
That's what you see everywhere. That's their logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bring it to a vote. Brian.
Yep.
Jane.
Yes.
Katie.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
I say yes. Good luck, Mr. Luini. Number 11, 215 Hanford Drive, the Zuskin application. Mr. Raymond presented this, permission to legitimize a construction error of almost 0.5% on lot coverage. Entertain a motion to approve.
Brian moves.
Thank you, Brian. You You bet. You hit 1,000 today. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry.
I wasn't feeling very sharing today.
And every single one did it perfectly by saying Brian moves. So
I learned my lesson.
all right, discussion.
I think it's a perfectly reasonable request and we should vote immediately.
Everyone's. Jane looks in awe at that comment.
No, I'm saying it's all good.
And Katie's nodding her head yes, and Terry's just blank. So let me bring it to a vote then. Brian?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I say yes, and I hope that people don't read the full record of this or listen to it with some of the comments, but I think it's nice sometimes to at least lighten it up a touch. Thank you, everyone. We're going to close the hearing. Zoning Board of Appeals close this March 3, 2022. See you in April.